My name is Sarah, and I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question everyone you trust. Picture this. It's your wedding day. The most important day of your life. You're surrounded by love, laughter, and the people who matter most to you. Your best friend since childhood is standing right beside you as your maid of honor, holding your bouquet, fixing your veil, whispering words of encouragement in your ear. But what if I told you that same person, the one you trusted with your deepest secrets, your greatest fears, your wedding planning stress, was harboring a secret so devastating that it would destroy not just your wedding day, but your entire understanding of friendship, loyalty, and trust? What if I told you that, while you were saying I do to the love of your life, your best friend was carrying a burden that would soon explode your world into a million pieces? A secret so shocking that it would make you question every moment of your 20-year friendship, every late-night conversation, every shared memory you held dear. This is my story. This is the story of how my wedding day became the day I learned that the people closest to us are sometimes capable of the deepest betrayal. And this is the story of how one secret, kept for months, would change everything I thought I knew about love, friendship, and the person I thought I could trust most in this world. I'm Sarah Mitchell, and this is the day my perfect wedding became my worst nightmare. But before we dive into this devastating tale of betrayal and broken trust, I want you to do something for me. If you're drawn to real stories about real people facing unimaginable situations, stories that make you question human nature and the complexities of relationships, then you need to subscribe to Crime Vault right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because we bring you the most compelling true crime stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Trust me, after hearing what happened to me, you'll want to stick around for more stories that prove truth is stranger than fiction. Now let me take you back to what should have been the happiest day of my life. June 15th, 2023. The Riverside Country Club was transformed into a fairy tale, white roses everywhere, string lights twinkling like stars, and me, Sarah Mitchell, about to become Sarah Hartwell. After 3 years of planning, everything was perfect. The weather was ideal, the flowers were pristine, and my dress was everything I dreamed of since I was a little girl. But none of it would have been possible without her. Jessica Chen, my maid of honor, my best friend since we were 8 years old, the girl who held my hair back when I was sick, who celebrated every achievement with me, who cried with me through every heartbreak, and who had been by my side through every major moment of my life. Jess and I met in 3rd grade when she moved to our small town in Ohio. She was the new kid, quiet and shy, and I was the overly friendly girl who decided she needed a friend. From that moment on, we were inseparable. We had sleepovers every weekend, shared clothes, shared secrets, shared dreams about our future weddings where we'd be each other's maid of honor. When I got engaged to Mark 2 years earlier, there was never a question about who would stand beside me. Jessica was my chosen sister, my partner in crime, my other half. She threw me the most beautiful bridal shower, helped me address hundreds of wedding invitations, and spent countless hours helping me make decisions about everything from centerpieces to the wedding cake flavor. The morning of my wedding, Jess was the first person at my suite. She arrived at 6 a.m. with coffee, bagels, and that infectious smile that always made everything better. She helped me into my dress, fastened every tiny button, and when I looked in the mirror, she was the one who whispered, "You look like a princess, Sarah. Mark is the luckiest man alive." But as I'm telling you this story now, I realized there were signs, little things that seemed insignificant at the time. But looking back, they were red flags waving frantically in front of my face. I was just too blinded by wedding joy and trust to see them. 3 months before the wedding, I noticed Jess seemed distracted during our planning sessions. She'd check her phone constantly, excuse herself to take calls, and sometimes seemed like her mind was somewhere else entirely. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd brush it off, saying work was stressful or she was dealing with family drama. 2 months before the wedding, she started asking strange questions about Mark. "Are you sure he's the one?" she'd ask out of nowhere. "Have you ever wondered what he does when you're not around?" At the time, I thought she was just being protective, maybe having some pre-wedding jitters on my behalf. Now I know better. 1 month before the wedding, Jess offered to handle the final details with our wedding planner. She said she wanted to take some pressure off me, let me relax and enjoy the final weeks of being engaged. I was so grateful to have such a caring friend. I had no idea she had an ulterior motive. The week before the wedding, she seemed nervous, almost jumpy. She'd start conversations and then trail off mid-sentence. She'd hug me a little too long, like she was trying to memorize the feeling. She kept saying things like, "No matter what happens, I love you, and you know I'd never intentionally hurt you, right?
I thought she was just emotional about me getting married, maybe worried about our friendship changing. We'd had conversations about how marriage might affect our bond, and I assured her nothing would change between us.
How wrong I was. The morning of the wedding, as she zipped up my dress, I caught her in the mirror. She looked like she was about to cry, but when I asked what was wrong, she said she was just overwhelmed by how beautiful everything was. She held my hands and said, "Sarah, I need you to know that everything I've done because I love you." At the time, I thought it was just pre-ceremony emotions. Now I know it was guilt. You see, while I was floating on cloud nine, believing I was surrounded by love and support, Jessica was carrying a secret that was eating her alive. A secret that would soon destroy everything I held dear. A secret that would make me question not just our friendship, but my own judgment, my ability to read people, and my understanding of human nature itself. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about the ceremony first. Because for those precious few hours, I was still living in my fairy tale, still believing that my best friend was exactly who I thought she was.
The ceremony was everything I dreamed of. Mark looked devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo, and when I walked down that aisle with my father, I felt like I was floating. The look in Mark's eyes when he saw me, it was pure love, pure joy, pure anticipation for our future together. Jessica stood at the altar looking beautiful in her dusty rose bridesmaid dress, holding my bouquet with trembling hands. I thought she was nervous about her maid of honor speech. Little did I know she was trembling for an entirely different reason. The ceremony went off without a hitch. We exchanged vows that we'd written ourselves, vows that spoke of eternal love, unwavering trust, and promises to always be honest with each other. Ironic, isn't it? While I was promising transparency and honesty to my new husband, my best friend was standing 3 feet away harboring a lie that would shatter both promises. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, and Mark kissed me for the first time as my husband, I felt complete. The crowd erupted in cheers, rose petals were thrown, and I was convinced that life couldn't get any better. Jessica was the first person to hug me after my parents, and she whispered in my ear, "I'm so happy for you," but her voice cracked when she said it. The reception was held in the club's elegant ballroom. Round tables with ivory linens, towering centerpieces of white roses and eucalyptus, and a dance floor that gleamed under the chandelier lights. Our first dance was to Atlas by Etta James, and as Mark spun me around, I caught glimpses of our guests watching with tears in their eyes. But throughout the evening, I kept noticing Jessica. She seemed to be watching Mark more than was normal. During dinner, when he got up to use the restroom, her eyes followed him across the room. When he was talking to his college friends, she positioned herself where she could hear their conversation. When he was laughing with his groomsmen, she looked almost worried. At one point during dinner, my Aunt Carol mentioned how beautiful Jessica looked and asked if she had a boyfriend. Jessica's face went pale, and she excused herself from the table quickly. I followed her to the bathroom to check on her. "Jess, are you okay? You seem really off tonight." She was standing at the mirror, gripping the marble countertops so hard her knuckles were white. "I'm fine," she said, but her reflection told a different story. She looked tortured. "Are you sure? You've been acting strange all day. Actually, you've been acting strange for weeks." She turned to face me, and for a moment, I thought she was going to tell me something important. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Finally, she said, I'm gonna miss you. Things are going to change now that you're married." So I hugged her tight. "Nothing is gonna change between us, Jess. You're my best friend. You're going to be Aunt Jessica to my kids someday. Mark loves you too. Your family." When I said Mark's name, she flinched. Actually flinched, like I'd slapped her. But before I could ask about it, my cousin knocked on the bathroom door saying it was time for the cake cutting. The cake cutting went beautifully. Mark and I fed each other small bites of our 3-tier vanilla and raspberry cake, while everyone cheered. But I noticed Jessica wasn't cheering. She was standing at the back of the crowd, looking like she was about to be sick. Then came time for the speeches. My father spoke about watching his little girl grow into a beautiful woman. Mark's best man told embarrassing college stories that had everyone laughing. And then it was Jessica's turn. She walked to the microphone slowly, like she was walking to her execution. She cleared her throat, looked out at the crowd, then looked directly at me and Mark sitting at the head table. "Sarah," she began, her voice shaking, "has been my best friend for 20 years. She's the kindest, most trusting, most loyal person I know. She deserves all the happiness in the world." She paused and I could see tears forming in her eyes. The room was completely silent,
hanging on her every word. Sarah, you've always seen the best in people, sometimes when they don't deserve it. You've always believed in love, in friendship, in the goodness of others. And Mark, her voice caught when she said his name. Mark, you're getting an incredible woman, someone who will love you unconditionally, someone who will trust you completely, someone who will never ever betray you. The emphasis she put on those last words sent a chill down my spine. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I just want to say that I love you both, and I hope you'll forgive me for what I'm about to do. The room erupted in confused murmurs. What did she mean? Forgive her for what she was about to do. Was she about to sing? Tell an embarrassing story? I looked at Mark and his face had gone completely white. That's when I knew. Before she said another word, I knew that whatever was coming was going to destroy everything. Jessica looked directly at me, tears streaming down her face, and said the words that would haunt me forever. Sarah, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. But I can't let you start your marriage living a lie. The room was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. 3 months ago, I was at Murphy's bar with some friends when I saw Mark there. He was with a woman who wasn't you, Sarah, and they weren't just talking. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The room started spinning. Mark jumped up from his chair, knocking over his champagne glass. Jess, stop. Please don't do this here. But she continued, her voice getting stronger, more determined. They were kissing, Sarah. They were all over each other. And when I confronted him the next day, he begged me not to tell you. He said it was a mistake, that it would never happen again, that it would destroy you. I couldn't breathe, literally couldn't breathe. My wedding dress suddenly felt like it was suffocating me. The man I just married, the man I just promised to love and trust forever, had been cheating on me. But that's not even the worst part. Jessica continued, and I thought, how could there be a worse part? What could be worse than finding out your new husband is a cheater? The woman he was with, Sarah, it was your cousin Emma.
Emma.
My cousin Emma, who was sitting just 2 tables away, who had helped me plan parts of the wedding, who had been to my bridal shower, who had hugged me and congratulated me just hours earlier. Emma, who was now sitting frozen in her chair, her face as white as my wedding dress. The room exploded. Gasps, shouts, chairs scraping against the floor as people stood up. My mother screamed, "What?" so loudly it echoed off the ballroom walls. Mark was shouting, "It's not what you think." Emma was crying and trying to leave, and I just sat there, paralyzed as my perfect wedding day crumbled around me. Sarah, Jessica continued, now sobbing. I've been carrying this secret for 3 months. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to hurt you, but I couldn't let you marry him without knowing the truth. I've been dying inside watching you plan this wedding, knowing what I knew. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't tell you sooner. Through the chaos, I finally found my voice. How long? I whispered, but the room was so loud. No one heard me. How long? I screamed, and suddenly everyone went quiet again. Mark was standing there, tears in his eyes, looking like a man facing execution. Sarah, please, let me explain. How long, Mark? 6 months, he whispered. It started 6 months ago. 6 months, while we were sending out wedding invitations, while we were having cake tastings, while we were writing our vows about love and fidelity and trust. For 6 months, my fiancé had been sleeping with my cousin, and my best friend had known about it. The betrayal was threefold. Mark, the man I loved, had cheated on me. Emma, my own family, had betrayed me with my fiancé. And Jessica, my best friend, had known about it and said nothing until our wedding day. Why now? I asked Jessica, my voice hollow. Why did you wait until today to tell me? Because I hoped it would stop, she sobbed. Mark swore to me it was over. He showed me text messages where he ended it with Emma. I thought if it was really over, maybe you didn't need to know. Maybe I could protect you from this pain. But it didn't stop, did it? Jessica shook her head. Last week I saw them together again. At the hotel where you're supposed to have your honeymoon. They were checking in together. Sarah. They were going to. She couldn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. They were planning to be together during my honeymoon. While Mark was supposed to be making love to his new wife, he was planning to sneak away to be with my cousin. I looked at Mark, this man I thought I knew, this man I just married, and he was a complete stranger. Is it true? I asked. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally nodded. Yes, he whispered. But Sarah, I love you. I was going to end it. Get out, I screamed. Get out. All of you, get out. But it was my wedding reception. They were my guests. I was the one who needed to leave. I ran in my wedding dress, in my heels, with my veil trailing behind me. I ran out of that ballroom and into the hotel lobby. Behind me, I could hear chaos, shouting, crying, chairs overturning. But I couldn't face any of it. I couldn't face the pity in my guests' eyes, the whispers that would follow, the complete destruction of what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I made it to the elevator before Mark caught up with me. He grabbed my arm just as the doors were closing. Sarah, please let me explain. I turned to face him, and I didn't recognize the man standing in front of me. This wasn't the Mark who had proposed to me on a beach at sunset. This wasn't the Mark who had cried when I walked down the aisle. This was a stranger wearing my husband's face. Explain what, Mark? Explain how you've been cheating on me for 6 months. Explain how you've been sleeping with my cousin. Explain how you let me plan our wedding. Let me dream about our future. Let me make vows of trust and fidelity while you were making a mockery of everything we had. It wasn't supposed to happen, he said, and he was crying now too. Emma and I, we were just talking at your cousin's birthday party, and we'd both had too much to drink. And one thing led to another. One thing led to another for 6 months, Mark. That's not a mistake. That's not a drunken error in judgment. That's a relationship. That's a choice you made over and over and over again. The elevator doors opened on the 3rd floor, and I stepped out. He followed me down the hallway to the bridal suite where I'd gotten ready that morning, where I'd been so happy just hours earlier.
Sarah, I love you.
I married you today because I love you, Emma. Emma is just what, Mark? Just sex? Just fun? Just something to do while your boring fiancé was busy planning your wedding? It's not like that. You don't understand. Then make me understand, I screamed. Make me understand how the man who wrote vows about cherishing and protecting me could be sneaking around with my cousin for half a year. Make me understand how you could look me in the eye every day and lie. Make me understand how you could let me believe we had something real when you were sharing a bed with someone else. He sat down heavily on the couch where my bridesmaids had been getting ready that morning. Emma understands me in ways that you don't, he said quietly. Those words hit me like a physical blow. What does that mean? You're so good, Sarah. You're so pure and trusting and optimistic. Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe around all that goodness. Emma is more real, more complicated. We can talk about things that I can't talk to you about. Like what? What can't you talk to me about? My doubts, my fears, my reservations about marriage. I stared at him in disbelief. You had reservations about marrying me, so you dealt with them by sleeping with my cousin instead of talking to me. Your fiancé, the person who's supposed to be your partner in everything. I knew you wouldn't understand. You were so excited about the wedding, so happy about our future. I didn't want to dim that light in your eyes, so instead you decided to shatter it completely on our wedding day. There was a knock at the door. Sarah, it was Jessica's voice. Can I please come in? Please. I need to talk to you.
Go away, Jess.
Please, Sarah, let me explain why I did what I did.
Mark stood up.
I should go. We should talk about this when you've had time to process. Process? I laughed. But there was no humor in it. Process that my marriage is over before it even began. Process that my husband and my cousin have been lying to me for months. Process that my best friend knew about it and let me plan a wedding that was built on lies. What exactly am I supposed to process? Mark? Sarah, please open the door, Jessica called again. I know you hate me right now, but I need you to understand why I waited, why I told everyone the way I did. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Jessica stood there still in her bridesmaid dress, mascara streaked down her cheeks, looking like she'd aged 10 years in the past hour. You have 5 minutes, I told her. She came in and sat across from where Mark was standing. The three of us, the bride, the groom, and the best friend in a hotel room that should have been filled with post-wedding joy and instead felt like a funeral parlor. I want you to know that keeping this secret was the hardest thing I've ever done, Jessica began. Every day for 3 months I woke up wanting to call you, wanting to tell you the truth. But Mark begged me not to. He swore it was over, that he'd ended it, that telling you would only hurt you unnecessarily. But you knew it wasn't over, I said. I suspected. I saw the way he looked at his phone sometimes when we were all together. I saw him making excuses to leave early from group dinners. And then last week when I saw them at the hotel, why didn't you tell me privately? I asked. Why did you choose to destroy me in front of 150 people? Jessica looked at Mark, then back at me. Because I knew that if I told you privately, he would convince you to forgive him. He would make promises, and you would believe them because you love him, and then you would marry him anyway, and he would hurt you again and again. And again, that wasn't your choice to make. I shouted. I know, she whispered. I know it wasn't. But Sarah, you have to understand. I've watched you forgive people who didn't deserve it your whole life. You forgave Tommy Peterson in high school when he cheated on you with 3 different girls. You forgave your ex-boyfriend Ryan when he stole money from your purse. You always see the best in people, even when they show you their worst. I couldn't let that happen again. Not with marriage. Not with your whole future. So you decided to humiliate me instead. I decided to save you, she said, and her voice was stronger now. I decided that public humiliation was better than a lifetime of private betrayal. I decided that one terrible day was better than years of wondering, years of being lied to, years of sharing your husband with other women. Mark had been silent during this exchange, but now he spoke up. Jess is right, Sarah. I would have convinced you to forgive me, and I probably would have done it again. Emma and I, we have something that I can't seem to walk away from. Those words were like a final nail in the coffin of our marriage. He wasn't even pretending to fight for us anymore. He was admitting that he chose Emma over me and that he would continue to choose her. Get out, I said quietly. Sarah, get out. Both of you, get out. And finally, they did. They left me alone in that bridal suite, still in my wedding dress, surrounded by the remnants of what should have been the best day of my life. The flowers were wilting, my makeup was smeared from crying, and my heart was broken into a million pieces. The next few weeks were the darkest of my life. The story of my wedding day disaster spread through our small town like wildfire. Everyone had an opinion about what Jessica should have done, what I should have done, what Mark and Emma should have done. Some people said Jessica was a hero for saving me from a cheating husband. Others said she was cruel for choosing to reveal the truth so publicly. I had to make decisions I never thought I'd face. Returning wedding gifts, canceling the honeymoon, starting annulment proceedings, explaining to everyone why my marriage lasted exactly 0 days. Moving out of the apartment Mark and I had shared, starting over at 32 when I thought my life was finally coming together. The hardest part wasn't losing Mark, as devastating as that was. I eventually realized that Jessica was right. If she had told me privately, I probably would have forgiven him and married him anyway, only to face this betrayal later when it would have been even more complicated to leave. The hardest part was losing my faith in my own judgment. How had I been so wrong about someone I thought I knew completely? How had I missed the signs that my fiancé was cheating? How had I failed to see that my cousin, my own family, was capable of such betrayal? How had I not noticed that my best friend was struggling with this enormous secret? I spiraled into depression. I questioned every relationship I'd ever had, every person I'd ever trusted. If I could be so completely wrong about the 3 people closest to me, how could I ever trust anyone again? But slowly, with the help of therapy and the support of friends and family members who weren't involved in the betrayal, I started to heal. I started to understand some difficult truths about human nature and about myself. I learned that people are complicated. Mark wasn't a monster. He was a weak man who made selfish choices. Emma wasn't evil. She was someone who got caught up in something that started as attraction and became something she couldn't control. And Jessica made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. 6 months after my wedding day, Jessica reached out to me. She'd been giving me space, respecting my request not to contact me while I healed. But she sent me a letter that I've read probably 100 times since then. And she wrote, Sarah, I know you may never forgive me for how I handled this situation. I know I destroyed your wedding day and caused you pain in front of people you love. But I want you to know that I would make the same choice again. Not because I wanted to hurt you, but because I couldn't bear the thought of you spending your life with someone who didn't deserve you. You deserve a love that doesn't come with secrets. You deserve a partner who chooses you every single day. You deserve better than Mark was giving you.
It took me another month to respond to that letter, but when I did, I thanked her. I thanked her for having the courage to tell me the truth when no one else would. I thanked her for protecting me in the only way she knew how. And I forgave her.
Mark and Emma are still together. They moved to another state shortly after the wedding fiasco. Unable to face the judgment of our small town, I heard through mutual friends that they're engaged now. I wish them well, genuinely. I've learned that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. As for me, I'm doing better than I ever thought possible. I moved to a new city, started a new job, made new friends. I dated again, cautiously at first, but with more wisdom about what to look for in a partner. I learned to trust my instincts and to value honesty above all else. In relationships, 2 years after my wedding day disaster, I met David. He's nothing like Mark. He's quiet where Mark was charming, steady where Mark was unpredictable, completely transparent where Mark was secretive. When I told him my story, he didn't try to minimize it or rush my healing process. He simply said, "I'm glad you found out before it was too late to start over." Jessica and I rebuilt our friendship slowly. It's different now. There's a weight to it that wasn't there before, a shared knowledge of how complicated love and loyalty can be, but it's also stronger in some ways. We both know now that real friendship sometimes means making hard choices and difficult sacrifices. Last month, Jessica was my maid of honor again. This time when she gave her speech, she talked about second chances and the courage it takes to trust again after being betrayed. She talked about how sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the thing that saves you from something even worse. And you know what? She was right. If Mark hadn't cheated, if Jessica hadn't told everyone at my first wedding, I would have spent years in a marriage built on lies. I would have missed out on finding David, on experiencing what real, honest love actually feels like. My first wedding day was a disaster. My second wedding day was perfect, not because everything went according to plan, but because it was built on truth, trust, and hard-won wisdom about what really matters in a relationship. So that's my story. The story of how my worst day led to my best life. The story of how betrayal taught me about real love. And the story of how sometimes the people who hurt us the most are also the people who save us from an even worse fate. To everyone listening who has experienced betrayal, who has had their trust shattered, who has had to start over when they thought their life was settled, I want you to know that healing is possible. Love is possible. Trust is possible again, but it comes with wisdom now, with boundaries, with a deeper understanding of what you deserve. And to Jessica, if you're listening, thank you. Thank you for having the courage to tell me the truth when no one else would. Thank you for destroying my wedding day so that I could build a better life. Thank you for showing me what real friendship looks like, even when it's painful and complicated and imperfect. Sometimes the greatest act of love is breaking someone's heart to save their soul. And sometimes the worst day of your life is actually the first day of your real life beginning. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the complexities of relationships and the difficult choices we sometimes have to make for the people we love, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Crime Vault. We bring you real stories about real people facing impossible situations. Stories that remind us that truth really is stranger than fiction. And remember, if you're facing betrayal, if you're questioning whether to trust your instincts, if you're wondering whether to tell someone a difficult truth, trust yourself. The people who love you deserve honesty, even when honesty is painful. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is break someone's illusion so they can find their reality. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for taking this journey with me. And remember, no matter how broken your heart feels today, there's always the possibility of a beautiful tomorrow.